All right, welcome back to the scimax channel. Today is video number 12 on electronic lab notebooks, and today we're going to talk about tracking reagents and one of my more productive procrastinations of getting QR codes and completion into an electronic lab notebook to facilitate tracking your reagents so you know what's been used. So that's the idea. In the lab, you probably make solutions. We might have a stock solution that's comprised of a bunch of different components, and you want to track them and have some kind of ID. And normally you would use a barcode for something like that. Or in the old days with a paper notebook, I would have, JRK1-43A, and that would be an indication to me it was notebook number 1, page 43, line A or something like that, and I could go there to look it up. In the lab notebook, we don't really have page numbers. We don't even really have, a concept of like a number. This is all happening in a directory, and it can grow for as long as I feel like growing it. And so we need a different way. And so I came up with this idea of using a QR code. So I'm going to show you kind of what the dream here is first, and then show you how it kind of looks, and then I'll show you how it was done. So the main idea here is that if I'm doing an experiment, I'm going to use some reagents, and I want a way of recording those reagents in a reasonable kind of way. And again, like thinking back to what I did when I had a paper notebook, if I was measuring out a volume of solvent, I would just write down, 30 milliliters of toluene. And probably I would not record the batch of it, depending on, what I was doing. And so a lot of information would get lost simply by it being tedious to do that. So what I have created here is that, and I'll show you the inventory in a little bit, but there is an inventory of a few reagents. This is just a proof of concept idea. And we can use that inventory to insert them. So you saw me load this file reagents.l, and this has a couple of things. I can say insert reagent, and it will prompt me down here at the bottom. I can pick benzene at 2 different purities, toluene, and stock solution 1. These are human labels for me. And if I just click on toluene, it inserts a link to toluene. And if I click on it, it will open. I'll do that now. That takes me to the toluene entry that's down here. And you can see it has an ID, has a CAS number, and then there's a QR code down here. I'll come back to that in a little bit. So the 4 entries that are in this reagents.org file are the inventory. And you could imagine putting some other things in here like the batch number or date, bought, etc., so you could track them by age or something like that. This could also be a more formal inventory that has an API. So if you had a database, you could query the database for these things and then keep it up to date that way. But here I just use org mode out of the box. Okay, and then there's a tooltip on here. If I press control return, then it actually goes to a website by the CAS number, so you can get some information down here. And I kind of imagine this would be helpful if you could get it to point to an MSDS or a safety data sheet, for example. There's all kinds of ways you might imagine interacting with this. Let me show you one more in here. So I'm going to insert benzene now. And benzene is a known particularly hazardous material. And when I press enter here, if you listen carefully, you might hear a little ding, and we'll get a little warning. So it was just a little ding. I didn't find a way to make a more exciting one. But you can see that benzene is showing in orange. And if I look at the help I've got to get the tooltips to show maybe in the little mode line down here, but a tooltip pops up that says this is a PHS. That's a particularly hazardous substance, and this is my notebook helping me see a good way to remind me that I need to be careful with this. And you could have it trigger other things if you wanted, like give you a warning, or if you click on it, it might take you to some instructions on how to use this particularly hazardous material. So these are two ways that you can use completion, and this is just the insert reagent command that is showing me those. Now there's another way though that I thought would be helpful, and that is to insert it by the QR code. And so this takes a little bit of finesse, because we have to be able to read a QR code from Emacs, and that QR code is in the real world. It's not like on my computer. It might be on a vial or something. And so I'm just going to try this insert from QR. And before I do that, let me show you how I envision doing it. It's a little bit tricky to show here, but from Emacs, I don't know if I can, maybe I can switch to like a desktop view here. And over here, we'll do insert from QR. Over here, I'm going to highlight. I use a screen capture mechanism, and that automatically inserted the stock solution over here. So that's a pretty handy trick. And this, again, if I click on it, it will take me to the stock solution, so I can read that this one is made 30% by volume of benzene, and the balance is toluene. And these, again, are links. I use links pretty extensively for all kinds of things, because it's not too hard to make them orange or change their color or add actions to them. Okay, so that's the critical idea here. If I look at what are these links, I can just make these literal links, and you can see these are reagent links that have these UUIDs that point to the UUID inside my inventory, and I just have coded these links so that when you click on them, it follows. Now, how did this happen? Let's look at reagents.l to get an idea. The first thing I did was load a new library I created called scimax QR. We'll look at that one a little bit later. I defined this org link, so here is how you make a new link in org mode. This is old news, but we can define the reagent. We have an action to follow it. Here I just use org ID go to path. Here's how we make a help echo. I check if there's a property for PHS, and then it labels it as PHS. And here's the key map for what happens when you press Control Return. It just runs this little lambda function that gets the link at the point, and then uses orgql to find the property with that ID. And then it gets the CAS number, and then eventually it just opens the URL at commonchemistry.cas. And then this is where I do the fontification. So we check if there's a PHS for that particular ID, and if it is, we color it orange, and if not, it just is a regular org link. For inserting the reagent, we use, again, orgql. It reads the reagents.org that's local in this directory. It finds all of the IDs and the tags, and then uses Ivy to select. So I use orgql to select all the candidates by getting the title, the ID, and the tags. And then if the tags contain PHS, then we use the little ding and make ourselves a message that it's particularly hazardous. Maybe you should do something other than that. Maybe it could be a little more visible, but that's the idea. And then to get it from a QR code, we have to use the scimax read QR function. And so this is a function that will prompt you to highlight a region on the screen with a QR code, and that's what I use QuickTime for, to get that in on the screen from my iPhone camera on the desk. And then once we get that, we insert it. So what happens when we insert it is it returns a string called QR:ID, and then I parse it and get the path of that QR code. So that's kind of it. That's it for the insert. It's not very tricky or difficult. This is the magic, I suppose, is this QR code, scimax QR. And this does take a little bit of installation requirements. It does rely on Python, QR code, PIL, and ZBar Lite. And it was like mildly tricky to get this installed, mostly because ZBar has some compiling things that need to be done. And otherwise, I have a link, a new link for QR. And it has a activate function that will overlay an image on it. So it actually overlays the QR code image, and it makes it just by running this Python script in the background. So it's not a very sophisticated approach. We generate a Python script with some data and path names in it, and then we create an image and put the overlay on the QR code. And that's what you could see in reagents.org. These are actually QR links. And if I toggle the literal links, you can see here that we have QR links, and they're just being rendered as images. So, and there's some minor support for exports, and so I actually printed the reagents.org file so that I would have the QR codes that I scanned. There's some code down here for the action, so if I click on it, then it will try to go to the ID, and then I can copy it if I wanted to paste it somewhere. So that makes it kind of easy. I should be able to click on this one and press C, and then if I go back to README, I can paste it and it will go right there. So pretty easy, pretty convenient. So that's sort of the main idea today. I think there's a lot of potential here. I've been playing with some Arduinos and Raspberry Pis that you can communicate by Wi-Fi. I have not figured out how to communicate with them by Bluetooth, but I'm pretty optimistic that we can set up a two-way communication where scimax will communicate to a device, ask it for a QR code, and then the device will return it back. I'm 100% sure we can do that by REST API with a Raspberry Pi. And reasonably sure someone in the world, and me eventually, will be able to do that with a Bluetooth device like a Raspberry Pi or Arduino. I think we're a few months away from being able to do that, just because of the amount of stuff I would have to learn about Arduinos. Maybe less time to get it done in a Raspberry Pi. All right, that is all for today, and I hope you find the ideas useful and get to try it out sometime in the future. Thanks. See you next time.